Welcome to In the Zone. It's been a few days, but I'm back. College football is around the corner, and I'm ready to give you some more college football talk. Yes, the last time I was with you, I gave you the Athlon's top 25 ranking. And also, I started out with 15 things to watch in 2021. And the first 5 on that list that I gave you were the usual suspects, which basically centered around the college football playoff. And it seemed like it's usually the same teams year in, year out. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma. Then we looked at the great expectations surrounding 3 schools, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, as they look to replace quarterbacks. Then we looked at the third point of emphasis, Georgia and their quarterback situation. Can JT Daniels get it done? Well, after he started, he showed why he was a 5-star athlete. And the fifth wheel would be the fourth point of emphasis among the Power 5 conferences. The push to expand the playoff, as they're talking now, is mainly from the Pac-12 because they have been basically an afterthought. COVID last year didn't help them because they played an abbreviated season. But then again, in a normal season, they've pretty much been an afterthought. No wonder there's so much talk of playoff expansion coming from out of that conference. Then we talked about number 5, Cincinnati, a team that's too good to ignore. And if they can come up with a couple of eye-opening victories during the season, they may be able to crash the party. So now we look at, of the 15 things to watch, we look at 5 more things to watch in the 2021 season. As you are now locked and loaded in the zone with Anthony, let's get this show started. Welcome once again to In the Zone with Anthony, and I'm so elated. It is the weekend. I'm so elated to have you in with me. And let's just get things going. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the love there. So, of the 15 things to watch in 2021, as I recap the first 5 that we looked at, we're going to go ahead and look at number 6, Notre Dame. So close, but yet so far. Strictly in terms of longevity, Brian Kelly has carved out a lasting place in Notre Dame history. Now in his 12th year in South Bend, he's been on the sideline for more games, 141, than any other Fighting Irish head coach, in a tenure that has already spawned more seasons than any of his predecessors except Knute Rockne. Barring disaster this fall, Kelly will add the 4 wins he needs to surpass Rockne at the top of the school's career wins list by mid-October at the latest. And after 3 decades of volatility, he's delivered a taste of sustained success. The winning percentage over the last 4 seasons, .843, marks easily the best 4-year run at Notre Dame since Lou Holt's era heyday from 1988 to 91, with 2 playoff appearances to show for it. Without a championship to his credit, however, Kelly is also at that point in his tenure where the wins often seems to pale in comparison to what he hasn't won. Last year's 31-14 semifinal loss to Alabama, along with the ACC championship game wipeout versus Clemson that preceded it, reinforced Notre Dame's reputation as an also-ran among the sport's real elite, dropping its record in major bowl games to 0-8 since the turn of the century. None of them close. Is last season as good as it gets? The foundation may be solid enough at this point to rack up another 10-win season, even in a rebuilding year, a testament to how far the Irish have come on Kelly's watch. Beyond that, the ceiling looks as fixed as ever. Number 7. Penn State back on course. Penn State's hopes for a Big Ten championship in 2020 started springing leaks before the season even began. All-American linebacker Michael Parsons opted out in August. Their most promising young talent on offense, running back Journey Brown, was forced to retire due to a heart condition. His backup, Noah Cain, suffered a season-ending injury on the first series of the season. The Lions limped to the first 0-5 start in school history. The operation looked seaworthy again down the stretch, closing on a 4-game winning streak versus the weaker half of the schedule. While the finish silenced murmurs about Coach James Franklin's job security, for the time being anyway, it couldn't erase the bad taste in PSU's first losing record since 2004. Franklin opted to reset the offense under new coordinator Mike Yurcich, whose reputation as the quarterback guru is backed up by his work with Oklahoma State's Mason Rudolph, Ohio State's Justin Fields, and most recently, Texas' Sam Ehlinger. Sean Clifford, a fifth-year senior with 20 career starts, has a long way to go to join their success stories, but he did solidify his role during the turnaround. The back 7 on defense, a liability for much of last year, now looks like a strength with the entire 2 deep returning behind a rebuilding D-line. Even if challenging Ohio State's depth grip on the Big Ten isn't on the radar, returning to a New Year's Six Bowl might very well be. Number 8, Michigan, Harbaugh's last stand. Throughout his first 5 seasons at Michigan, Jim Harbaugh's tenure was defined by one big, insurmountable mandate: beating Ohio State. In year 6, however, the Buckeyes were the least of his problems. Just about everything that could have gone wrong in the abbreviated 2020 campaign did. Key injuries, widespread attrition, instability at quarterback, weekly breakdowns on defense, all culminating in a 2-4 slog that very nearly cost Harbaugh his job. The only silver lining, ironically, was that at least Michigan didn't have to suffer through yet another loss versus OSU. The rivalry game was mercifully called off due to the virus. Rumors swirled that a mutual split between Harbaugh and his alma mater was imminent, and although they ultimately decided to stick it out for another year, there is no hiding now that the marriage is on the rocks. The bid for a resurgence rests largely on a new, as yet undetermined quarterback and a first-time defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald, who spent the last 6 years working under Harbaugh's brother, John, with the Baltimore Ravens. Macdonald will inherit proven commodities in defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, a 2020 injury casualty, and defensive back Daxton Hill. Otherwise, almost every other position is up for grabs. Ohio State notwithstanding, every other game on the schedule is winnable, including a tone setter versus Washington. If the defense reverts to form, the Wolverines could be a stable QB away from a dark horse run in the Big Ten East. But the line between landing in a major bowl game in December and launching a coaching search is as thin as it can be. Number 9. Texas turns the page again. Did Tom Herman stand a chance at Texas? Despite some initial signs of life and despite a 32-18 record over 4 years, the Herman era never lived up to the hype, stalling out after a 10-win season in 2018 and failing to capitalize on 3 consecutive top 10 recruiting classes. For a fan base with infamously high expectations, there was something for everyone to dislike: an empty trophy case, red flags on the recruiting trail, a high-profile rift over players' protests of the school fight song. By January, the collective angst culminated in Herman's exit. His successor, Steve Sarkisian, comes with baggage of his own from his last stint as a head coach at USC, which ended abruptly midway through the 2015 season. In the meantime, though, Sark thrived in his comeback role as Alabama's offensive coordinator, earning a national championship in 2020 as architect of the highest scoring offense in SEC history. His immediate concerns: 1. Settling on a new quarterback to replace four-year starter Sam Ehlinger, engine of an attack that averaged 42.7 points per game, and 2. Shoring up a defense that ranked in the bottom half of the Big 12 in both total and scoring D each of the past 2 years. Longer terms, the top priority remains reestablishing Texas as the dominant year in, year out recruiting power in the most talent-rich state in the country. The phase where Herman's momentum most obviously seemed to have run out. But as UT's third new coach in 8 years, Sarkisian shouldn't be under any illusions that time is on his side. Number 10. LSU, cure for a hangover. No one in their right mind last year expected anything like a rerun of LSU's stunning, prolific 2019 championship run. But the hangover, predictable as it was, often felt more like a coma. Through 8 games, the Tigers stood at 3-5, with historically lopsided losses against Auburn and Alabama already in the books, and close to half the roster on the shelf due to injuries, COVID-19, and self-preservation ahead of the NFL draft. But rather than packing it in for the year, the Tigers posted back-to-back wins over Florida and Ole Miss that evened the record at 5-5 and offered a light at the end of the tunnel. After a turbulent season behind center, true freshman QB Max Johnson emerged as a steady hand, and fellow freshman Kayshon Boutte as a full-blown star at wide receiver. Defensive end Ali Gay, a first-year junior college transfer, and freshman cornerback Eli Ricks cemented their status as rising stars. After a muted campaign that had featured a single home victory prior to the season finale, the energy in reduced capacity Tiger Stadium for the shootout win over Ole Miss felt almost normal. There's a lot to look forward to. The Tigers will have as much frontline star power as any team in the SEC. They'll have new coordinators on both sides of the ball as well. That may not be enough to lift them back into the playoff conversation in the same division with Alabama and Texas A&M. But for now, reverting to a standard issue LSU team is a step in the right directions. So what I am going to do right now is I am going to take a pause for the cause. But when I come back, I will have some more for you. So stay locked and loaded in the zone. This is yours truly, Anthony Smith. Welcome back to my next segment. I told you this is going to be my college football preview. You're back in the zone with your boy Anthony, and I am once again elated to have you in here with me. Thank you for the applause. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I feel the love. First conference we're going to look at is going to be the ACC. And we'll probably look at the Atlantic Division first. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at games to watch. So let's just go ahead and get on into this right now. Games to watch. September the 3rd, North Carolina at Virginia Tech. A season opening divisional matchup between coastal teams that have split, entering high scoring contest the past 2 seasons. September the 4th, Clemson versus Georgia. Playoff contenders opened the season by facing off in Bank of America Stadium in a game that everyone will be paying close attention to. September the 4th, Miami versus Alabama. Miami gets first crack at the defending national champions. It will be the team's first meeting since Alabama's win in the 1993 Sugar Bowl. September the 5th, Notre Dame at Florida State. Mike Norvell's debut season included a lopsided loss to Notre Dame. Will Norvell's Noles fare any better against the Fighting Irish at home? October the 16th, Miami and North Carolina. A pivotal coastal contest gives Miami a chance to avenge last season's 62-26 beatdown at home, in which North Carolina ran for 544 yards. October the 30th, North Carolina at Notre Dame. After falling to Notre Dame at home last season, North Carolina gets another shot at the Irish. The Tar Heels have never won. 0-11 in South Bend. October the 30th, Virginia at BYU. Former BYU head coach Bronco Mendenhall returns to Provo, leading a Virginia team looking to bounce back after a 5-5 showing in 2020. Florida State at Clemson. On October the 30th, Florida State has lost 5 in a row to the 6-time defending ACC champions. The last 2 coming by combined 80 points. Miami at Florida State on November the 13th. Beating Miami at home to snap a 4-game losing streak in the series won't completely fix what ails Florida State, but it wouldn't hurt either. November 20th, Virginia Tech at Miami. These foes have taken turns winning on the other's home field in the last 3 meetings. This game could loom large in the coastal standings. November 27th, Florida State at Florida. Florida State's trip to the swamp offers another shot at validation, along with a chance to end Florida's 2-game winning streak in the series. And also November 27th, Virginia Tech at Virginia. After Tech's convincing win last season, the Cavaliers will try to reclaim the Commonwealth Cup trophy by beating the Hokies in Charlottesville. So there you have games to watch. So now let's kind of get into this ACC preview. Some things we will probably omit, so I won't even probably mention it. But as far as recruiting by the school goes, we're just going to break it down to you like this, starting at number 1, working down to 14. Of course, number 1, Clemson. Number 2, Miami. Number 3, North Carolina. Number 4, Florida State. Number 5, Pittsburgh. Number 6, Virginia. Number 7, NC State. Number 8, Boston College. Number 9, Louisville. Number 10, Virginia Tech. Number 11, Georgia Tech. Number 12, Syracuse. Number 13, Duke. And number 14, Wake Forest. And there, like I said, there is a lot to look at, but we're going to condense some things. As far as looking at the All ACC team, first team offense. It starts out like this. At quarterback, Sam Howell, 6'1", 225 junior, North Carolina. Running back, Zonovan Knight, 5'11", 210-pound sophomore, North Carolina State. Running back, Lynn J. Dixon, 5'10", 195-pound senior from Clemson. All-purpose would be Zay Flowers, 5'11", 178-pound junior out of Boston College. Wide receivers, you're looking at Justin Ross, 6'4", 205 junior from Clemson. And Jacree Roberson, 6'1", 182-pound junior from Wake Forest. Tight end, James Mitchell, 6'3", 242 junior from Virginia Tech. Center, Alec Lindstrom, 6'3", 295 senior, Boston College. Offensive lineman, Akeem Ekwanyu, 6'4", 320, sophomore, North Carolina State. Offensive lineman, Jordan McFadden, 6'2", 300-pound junior from Clemson. Offensive lineman, Zion Johnson, 6'3", 310-pound senior from Boston College. And offensive lineman, Joshua Aziudu, 6'4", 320-pound junior from North Carolina. The first team defense looks like this. First team defense, defensive line, Brian Breezy, 6'5", 300-pound sophomore, Clemson. Defensive lineman, Miles Murphy, 6'5", 275-pound sophomore, Clemson. Defensive line, Tyler Davis, 6'2", 300-pound junior, Clemson. Defensive lineman, Amari Barno, 6'6", 235-pound junior, Virginia Tech. Linebacker, James Skalski, 6 foot, 240-pound senior, Clemson. Linebacker, Peyton Wilson, 6'4", 235-pound sophomore, North Carolina State. Linebacker, Isaiah Moore, 6'2", 240-pound junior, North Carolina State. Cornerback, Jermaine Waller, 6'1", 180-pound junior, Virginia Tech. Cornerback, Andrew Booth Jr., 6 foot, 195-pound junior from Clemson. Safety, Nolan Turner, 6'1", 205-pound senior, Clemson. And safety, Bubba Bolden, 6'3", 204-pound junior from Miami. First team specialist, kicker, Nick Skyba, 5'9", 180-pound junior from Wake Forest. Punter, Lou Headley, 6'4", 225-pound junior from Miami. Kick returner, Zonovan Knight, 5'11", 210-pound sophomore, North Carolina State. And punt returner, Thayer Thomas, 6', 197-pound junior, North Carolina State. First team we want to look at, as we look at the conference preview, will be Boston College. Their record last year, their national forecast, 42, ACC Atlantic predictions, ranked 3, projected record 7-5, 4-4 in the ACC. The key Eagles, Phil Jovovich, quarterback, recorded 4 300-yard games and frequently made off-schedule plays. Zay Flowers, wide receiver, Baltic in space, and can take the top off any defense. He caught 56 passes for 892 yards and 9 touchdowns. Jaden Lars Woodbay, strong safety, renowned for his intelligence on and off the field, leadership ability, and versatility in the secondary. Key losses, Hunter Long, tight end. The AP All-American led all tight ends nationally with 57 receptions, the second most in a single season in program history for a tight end. Max Richardson, linebacker, was the heart and soul of BC's locker room and ended his Eagles career with 316 tackles. David Bailey, running back, led the team with 503 rushing yards and finished his BC career with 19 total scores prior to entering the transfer portal. Rising star, defensive lineman, Cam Horsley, played in all 11 games as a true freshman last season, logging 324 snaps in the trenches. According to PFF, Horsley's best game came against Louisville when he had half a sack and a fumble recovery. He'll be even more disruptive in 2021. So basically looking now at Boston College. Boston College hasn't knocked off an AP top 25 opponent since it upset number 9 USC in 2014. Steve Adazio's tenure ended with 16 straight losses to programs ranked in the AP poll. From 2016 to 19, ranked opponents drubbed Adazio's teams by an average of 30 points. BC scrounged together 10.2 points per game in those matchups, scoring a long touchdown on 6 occasions. The Eagles were a national afterthought. That changed when Jeff Hafley took over. After turning around Ohio State's defense in 2019, Hafley revitalized a BC program that was stuck in neutral and projected by many to finish in the ACC's basement last season. Although the Eagles didn't earn that coveted ranked win in 2020, they did come closer than they have in years. BC was a 2-point conversion away from forcing overtime against 12th ranked North Carolina and lost to number 1 Clemson and number 2 Notre Dame by a combined 20 points. Perhaps most importantly though, Hafley's staff and players established a culture that saw BC go 5 straight months without a positive COVID-19 test, and now they're bringing back a total of 18 starters on offense and defense with a much lighter schedule than last year's slate. Offense. Offensive coordinator Frank Cignetti inherited a run-oriented scheme and pivoted hard to produce a potent aerial attack. In a single season, the Eagles went from second to last to third in the conference in passing offense. Quarterback Phil Jurkovec played a big part in the metamorphosis. The Notre Dame transfer won the starting job last summer and ran with it, throwing for 2,558 yards and 17 touchdowns in 10 games. Jurkovec won't have his security blanket tight end Hunter Long this fall, but he'll still have plenty of weapons. BC returns all ACC first-team wide receiver Zay Flowers. The Speedy Flowers put up a conference-best 9 touchdowns as a sophomore last season. He was tied for 5th nationally with 7 receptions of 40 or more yards. Another wideout to watch is redshirt senior C.J. Lewis. The 6'3" former high school quarterback caught everything thrown his way in 2020, piling up 460 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. BC also gets back wide receiver Kobe White, who missed last season with an ACL tear but led the team in receptions the previous year. The biggest question mark remains BC's run game, which surprisingly plummeted from 8th in the country in 2019 to a meager 118th last season. The Eagles shifted to a zone run scheme in 2020, resulting in growing pains. Luckily for BC, it retains everyone up front, including Zion Johnson and Ben Petrula, both of whom passed on the 2021 NFL Draft. The defense. Following a historically bad 2019 season, BC began to restore its defensive tradition under the watch of Hafley and defensive coordinator Tim Lukabu. The Eagles improved from 125th to 73rd in total defense, 101st to 60th in scoring defense, and 122nd to 82nd in pass defense, allowing 40 fewer passing yards per game in 2020, 245.5 than they did in 2019. The secondary is loaded with experience. The safety group is headlined by transfer and former 5-star recruit Jaden Lars Woodbay, who started 22 games for Florida State. Then there's redshirt senior Brandon Sebastian, a 3-year starter on the outside. Fellow corner Josh DeBerry was named All-ACC honorable mention last year. Redshirt juniors Elijah Jones and Jason Martare also started their fair share of games in 2020, with Martare often playing nickel. BC frequently lined up in a 4-2-5 formation last year and will likely do the same this fall, with the departure of linebackers Max Richardson and Isaiah McDuffie. Those two combined for 206 total tackles last season. There's going to be competition for the starting spots, but Temple grad transfer Isaiah Graham Mobley should snag one. The Eagles created takeaways, the third most in ACC 21 last year, but it'll be worth monitoring how consistent their pass rush and run defense are this fall. 17 of BC's 25 sacks came in 4 games, and defending mobile quarterbacks was a big issue in 2020. Specialist place kicker Aaron Boomerhire and punter Grant Carlson stuck around for another year. Despite coming off his second right hip surgery, Bamari was one of only 2 ACC kickers last season to make 15 or more field goals and convert at least 8% of his attempts. He was 16 of 20 on the year, including 16 of 18 inside 50 yards. Carlson ranked 8th in the league with 15 punts inside the 20-yard line last season and had only 3 touchbacks. He averaged 42.4 yards per boot, the second highest mark in his 3 seasons as BC's punter. Final analysis: the program is searching for its first 8-win season since 2009. Hafley could finally end that drought this fall. The Eagles certainly have the schedule to do it. BC kicks off the year with 4 straight non-conference games, and only 2 of the Eagles' 2021 opponents finished last season with a winning record. BC's offense should be able to rock with any team in the ACC. The Eagles will find themselves in the postseason. However, the level of bowl game will likely depend on whether their defense can take another step forward. So there you have a look at the Boston College Eagles. So what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to take another quick break. Hope you're locked in the zone. So stay tuned. I'll be back with more to come. You're locked in the zone with Anthony Smith. Well, never know what you're going to hear when you come back in from a break hunt. Welcome back to In the Zone. You're locked in. Giving you some college football talk. That just sounds so smooth, doesn't it? Anyway, we're looking at the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference. Just looking at Boston College. And I think what I'm going to do, I am going to wrap it up, this particular podcast, on a Clemson note. So we're going to take a look at Clemson right now. Key Tigers, James Skolowski, linebacker, the heart and soul of the Clemson defense. Skolowski is a physical linebacker who's always around the football. Miles Murphy, defensive end, has a chance to be the next great pass rusher for the Tigers. He led Clemson with 12 tackles for a loss. DJ Ugalele, quarterback, has the arm strength, poise, and football IQ to join Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence as all-time great QBs. Key losses: Trevor Lawrence, QB, arrived at Clemson with monster expectations and more than lived up to them. Travis Etienne, running back, two-time ACC Player of the Year and all-time leading rusher in ACC history, holds the FBS record for most career games scoring a touchdown. Amari Rogers, wide receiver, led Clemson in receptions, 77 in receiving yards, 1,020 as a senior. Rising star, sophomore Trenton Simpson, could be an all-ACC performer for the Tigers this season. After starting 3 games a year ago, 6'3", 25-pound linebacker has great size and speed. He can help in run support and is also solid in coverage. Clemson will have a new look team in 2021. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne off to the NFL. But the expectations remain the same. Win and win big. It obviously won't be easy to replace the production of Lawrence and Etienne. The two are arguably the top players at their positions in history. Nor will it be easy to replace the production of receivers Amari Rogers and Cornell Powell. But there is plenty of talent still remaining at Clemson on both sides of the ball. The Tigers have won 6 consecutive ACC titles, reached the college football playoff in 6 consecutive years, and have won 2 of the past 3 national titles. The expectation is that Clemson will be back competing for a national championship again in 2021. This team is definitely farther along than last year's group, Dabo Swinney said this spring. Offense, it all starts with DJ Uiagalelei, who is taking over from Lawrence and is expected to immediately be a Heisman candidate. Uiagalelei made a pair of starts last season when Lawrence out after testing positive for COVID-19 and excelled in both. He passed for 342 yards in his first career start against Boston College on October 31 and followed it up by passing for 439 yards the following week at Notre Dame. 439 yards was the most ever by an opposing quarterback against the Irish. Uiagalelei should have plenty of playmakers to catch passes around him, including receivers Justin Ross, Joseph Gotti, E.J. Williams, and Aju. Ross was expected to be one of the top receivers in college football last season before a congenital spinal fusion diagnosis sidelined him for the year. He caught 112 passes for 1,864 yards and 17 TDs his first 2 years on campus. Tight ends Ray Galloway and Davis Allen are also expected to be heavily involved in the passing game. Senior Lynjay Dixon is the favorite to take over at running back, but he does not have the position locked up. Dixon is averaging 6.6 yards per carry for his career, which is second all-time at Clemson behind only Etienne. But he was pushed by sophomore Kobe Pace this spring. Perhaps the area Clemson needs to improve the most is on its offensive line. Tigers were inconsistent up front last year, particularly struggling to open up running lanes for Etienne and other backs. Swinney expects the group to be much improved in 2021. New starting tackle Walker Parks could bring a necessary mean streak to the unit, which returns 3 starters. Defense. The group had a rough ending to the 2020 season as Ohio State put up 49 points and 639 yards against the Tigers in the Sugar Bowl. Clemson struggled at all 3 levels against the Buckeyes and entered the spring determined to correct its mistakes. The biggest area of focus this spring was being more physical. We've got to be able to prove our ability to dominate. Defensive coordinator Brent Venables said, we've got to stop the run. We didn't show against Ohio State. They gave it to us. So we've got to live with that and learn from that. The Tigers returned 10 starters from last year, including all 4 starting defensive linemen. Brian Breezy could be the best of the bunch. He was a freshman All-American and ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2020 after posting 33 tackles, 6.5 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks. Tyler Davis, Miles Murphy, KJ Henry, Xavier Thomas, and others should help this group be Clemson's best defensive front since 2018 national title team. At linebacker, James Skalski is back for his 6th season and could be one of the best at the position in the country. He is the only player to play in 5 ACC title games and make it 6 this year. Sophomore Trent Simpson is a special talent who flashed at times last season and has a chance for a breakout year. The secondary is an experienced group led by 6th-year senior Dylan Turner, who led the Tigers with 3 interceptions a season ago. Andrew Booth Jr., Shirley Jones, and Mario Goodrich are cornerbacks who have played a lot of snaps but need to be more consistent. Specialists Hunter Will Spires and placekicker B.T. Potter have All-America potential. Spires averaged 44 yards per punt last season and had 12 punts for 50-plus yards. Potter made 18 of 22 field goal attempts with a lone 52. He was 2 for 3 for 50-plus yards. Final analysis. There are some question marks for sure. Most notably, is the offensive line improved and can it hold up against elite defensive fronts? Can the secondary bounce back from a rough showing against Ohio State in the playoffs? But, as has become the norm at Clemson, there is also plenty of talent and experience. Even if the Tigers drop, which will be a tough opener against Georgia, they should be heavily favored for the rest of the regular season. Sweeney has built a monster of a program, one that should continue to compete for titles even after losing 2 of the best players in program history. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of In the Zone. I will be back again tomorrow to give you some more college football preview. Look more into the ACC. And more teams as well. And probably throw in some more little tidbits. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of In the Zone Sports as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. This is yours truly, Anthony Smith. Reminder to always stay locked into the zone.